Good evening and welcome to The Other Side. I am Rimamnde Shawulu. Tonight we examine one of the most painful but the least understood dimension of Nigeria's security crisis when we discuss Nigeria's terrorism, banditry, insurgency, communal violence and kidnapping. The conversation often focuses on security agencies and armed groups, but beneath the statistics is a far more troubling reality. A generation of Nigerian children has grown up under the shadow of fear. Some have been kidnapped, some have been forced into marriage, some simply disappeared and are yet to be found, such as the 80 Chibok girls that are yet to return from the camp of Boko Haram, or the story of Leah Sharibu, the young girl who was abducted at 17 years old and has remained in the hands of armed bandits. Some others have been recruited into armed groups. Some watched their parents killed. How many Nigerian children have been lost to violence since 2009? What happens to children after they are abducted? Where are schools increasingly becoming targets? Has child kidnapping become a national criminal economy? And perhaps the most uncomfortable question of all is, what does this say about the Nigerian state when parents are no longer sure whether their children will return safely from school?
They won't enter now, they go full for that.
Oh yeah, it's a ballet game. What you Kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀? Ẹ dúró ẹ farabalẹ̀, kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀? Kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀? Kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀? Bandits. Why una see them? Ẹ lọ gùn látẹ̀yìn, ẹ̀gùn. Ó yá. Ìbẹ́ta, ìjà lọ, ọ̀tá bá lè tó, a máa padà. A máa padà wá, àwọn tá bá lè gbé a máa padà wá. Let's come back and pick your people. Ṣé gbọ́? We will. Let's go. Àwọn tá bá lè padà wá tó a máa wá tó. Ẹ fọkàn balẹ̀, kò sí ọ̀tá.
Before 2009, child trafficking, communal violence, and occasional kidnappings existed in Nigeria, but the scale was relatively limited. Everything changed with the emergence of Boko Haram. What began as insurgency evolved into one of the most devastating humanitarian crises in Africa and indeed the world, because at one point, Boko Haram was said to be one of the 4 most deadliest terrorist groups in the world. Children were no longer merely caught in conflict. They became targets. They became tools and became weapons. The insurgency introduced a new reality. Children were abducted from villages. Girls were forced into marriages. Boys were recruited into armed groups. Children became cooks, laborers, porters, spies, and fighters. Entire communities were emptied. Schools became battlefields. For many children in the Northeast, childhood itself became a casualty of war. On April 14, insurgents stormed a government secondary school in Chibok, Borno State. 26 school children were abducted. The incident shocked the world. The hashtag Back Our Girls became one of the most influential global advocacy campaigns in modern history. For many people around the world, Chibok became the symbol of Nigeria's insecurity. But there is an important reality that often gets forgotten. Chibok was not the beginning. It was simply the momentum they noticed. Thousands of children had been affected by insurgency before Chibok. Large number, hundreds, had also been kidnapped before Chibok, but not in such one large fell swoop. And tragically, many more will be affected afterwards. As military pressure increased in the Northeast, another threat emerged elsewhere. Bandit groups operating in the Northwest discovered something terrifying. Kidnapping children generated money. Unlike armed insurgent groups motivated by ideology, many bandit groups were motivated by profit. Children became bargaining chips. Students became financial assets. Schools became reservoirs of hostages. By 2020 and 2021, Nigeria witnessed an unprecedented wave of mass school abductions. Kankara, Kagara, Jangebe, Tegina, Bethel Baptist, Greenfield. Community after community found itself trapped in a cycle of fear, attack, abduction, ransom, release, and repeat. What emerged was not merely a security challenge, it was a kidnapping economy. One of the biggest challenges in understanding the crisis is the lack of reliable data. Many casualty reports simply state women and children. Others often use the term civilians. Very few reports tell us exactly how many children were killed. Very few distinguish between children, teenagers, and adults. What we know is alarming. What we do not know may even be worse. Many attacks occur in remote villages. Many deaths are never formally documented. Many abducted children are never publicly reported, and many families remain too afraid to speak. This means official statistics almost certainly underestimate the true nature and scale of the crisis. The fate of abducted children varies depending on who captures them. For children abducted by insurgent groups in the northeast, some are forced into marriage, some are subjected to sexual violence, some are recruited into armed groups, some are used as laborers, some are indoctrinated. For children kidnapped by bandit groups, many become hostages for ransom. They are often moved through forests. Food shortages are common. Medical care is almost non-existent. Psychological trauma is widespread. And in some cases, children die in captivity. The suffering does not end when they return home. Many survivors struggle with stigma. Many never return to school. Many live with trauma for years. The crisis looks different depending on where you are. In the Northeast, dominant threat remains insurgency. Children are used for recruitment, forced marriages, and ideological control. There was a time small girls, very young girls, had bombs strapped to them and were used as suicide bombers in Borno State. In the Northwest, the dominant threat is banditry. Children are abducted primarily for ransom. In the North Central, the dominant threats include militia attacks, communal violence, and kidnapping networks. The first was in 2010 in Dogonahawa, where hundreds of children had their heads split into two by rampaging terrorists. Children often die during village attacks. Many become displaced. Many become orphans. In the Southwest, the numbers remain lower, but worrying signs are beginning to emerge. Kidnapping networks increasingly exploit forests and rural corridors. And of course, they have been emboldened by recent attacks in Oyo State and may go for more areas, and many more children in the Southwest may be affected. Every major school abduction creates another victim beyond those kidnapped. Education itself becomes a victim. Parents become afraid. Teachers become afraid. Communities become afraid. Schools close. Children stay at home. Years of education disappear. Some children never return. Others are forced into labor. Others are married off. Others drift inevitably into criminal networks. The impact extends far beyond a single attack. It shapes the future of entire communities. To be fair, there have been important efforts. Military operations have rescued thousands of civilians, of course, including children. Security agencies have disrupted kidnapping networks. The Safe Schools Initiative has expanded protection measures. State governments have invested in security infrastructure. Yet serious challenges remain. Many rural communities still lack effective protection. Response times remain slow and very poor. Prosecutions remain limited and sometimes non-existent. Victims receive inadequate support after release. The reality is that rescue alone is not enough. A rescued child still needs healing. A rescued child still needs education. A rescued child still needs a future. And as a nation, there are difficult questions we must confront. Where are rural schools vulnerable after years of attacks? Where does Nigeria still lack a comprehensive national database for child abductions? Where are so many communities forced to negotiate directly with armed groups? How many abductors have actually been convicted? How many rescued children receive long-term rehabilitation? And most importantly, what kind of future awaits a country where children increasingly view school, travel, and even home as dangerous places? The story of Nigeria's child security is not just about terrorism. It is not only about banditry. It is not only about kidnapping. It is ultimately a story about governance and about protection. Of course, that is the first rule, that the people give consent to the government to be the sole possessor of instruments of violence so that the state can protect them. The people hand over their self-protection measures to the state so that the state will protect them. But whether the state can fulfill its most basic responsibility, the protection of citizens, especially its children, is the question that Nigerians are asking the government. The future, it said, becomes endangered. The evidence is clear. Children are no longer merely victims caught in the crossfire. In many parts of Nigeria, they have become direct targets. The challenge before Nigeria is therefore not simply to rescue children after they are taken. The challenge is to build a country where children will not in the first place be kidnapped, where there will be no need to rescue them. I'm Rimamnde Shawulu. Thank you for joining us today on The Other Side. Don't forget to subscribe to India Live, like and share our content, and as well, comment. The question we should ask, what should Nigeria do differently to protect children from kidnapping and conflict?